Combat boots stomped onto the iron deck and squelched out a smear of stringy, shredded flesh. I watched, frozen, as the steel plate beneath my feet split open into a massive maw, rows of teeth tearing the skin and meat clean off my teammate's back. This wasn't just some ordinary steel fishing trawler. This was a living, breathing monster burning with fever, devouring men. 12 hours ago, we got the order to board this missing fishing vessel. We never imagined that the moment we pushed open that hatch, the nightmare would truly begin. The beam of my flashlight whipped wildly down the corridor because I was scrambling backward like a madman. Collins was sprawled in front of me, less than 3 meters away. He was screaming, but the sound was muffled like something was clogging his mouth. I watched his combat vest soak through from the inside out, a dark, viscous sludge seeping through the fabric's weave, oozing out. The side of his body pressed against the deck was making a series of wet, tearing sounds. Asterisk slap, slap, slap. Asterisk like someone ripping the sinew off, raw meat. With each sound, his back sank a little deeper. The fabric collapsed into a suddenly hollow pit of flesh, the edges curling outward, revealing white bone beneath. His shoulder blade was the first to emerge, the bones still clinging to shredded muscle fibers, pink and quivering. The deck was littered with what had been torn from him, a large flap of back skin, still attached to a layer of fat, its edges ragged, weeping serum, and the entire biceps femoris muscle from the back of his thigh, just lying there on the steel plate like a slab of meat fresh off a butcher's block. Collins tried to crawl forward, propping himself up on his elbows, his hands slipping on the steel. I could see his exposed shoulder blade grinding up and down with the movement of his arm, a grating sound coming from between the bones. His mouth finally cleared. A gush of copper-yellow sludge poured out, thick as waste oil, dribbling down his chin. He shouted at me, his voice gurgling with liquid in his throat. Pull me out. I reached for him. I couldn't reach. When he slumped back down, his entire chest pressed flat against the deck. The moment his ribs hit the deck, something sprouted from steel. Rust-yellow tendrils of tissue, like fungal hyphae, burst from the seams in the plate and coiled around his ribcage. He convulsed. The remaining muscle on his back was still being dragged downward, the skin near his shoulder blade tearing all the way to his waist. The vertebrae of his spine bulged out one by one. I could hear the sound of his backbone grinding against the deck. Asterisk clack, clack. Asterisk, then came his face. When he turned his head to look at me, the flesh of his cheek was already sticking to the steel. The skin of his face sagged, pulling his eyelids open so he couldn't close them. His eyeballs bulged, then something pushed them from behind the sockets. When they reached their limit, I didn't need to hear the sound of them bursting. I could see the clear fluid and blood spray out together, splattering onto the toe of my boot. It was warm. I stopped. My hands were on the deck, my fingers digging into the gaps between the plates. The flashlight beam was fixed on Collins. What was left of him was still moving, still dissolving into the deck. His hand was still reaching out toward me. Beyond the beam, everything was black, a deep, thick blackness. The corridor stretched away into nothing on both sides. The sound of the wind and waves was muffled by the iron hull, a dull rumble like distant thunder. Then I heard another sound, coming from deep within the corridor. Metal slowly twisting, like a steel beam being bent inch by inch. Asterisk creak, asterisk, asterisk creak. Asterisk my own breathing drowned out everything else. The flashlight beam began to tremble. 12 hours ago, I was standing on the deck of the Hamilton, breathing in the cold air. The Bering Sea in October. The sky was gray as lead. The swells weren't high, but they were constant, rocking the patrol ship from stem to stern. I was squatting by the helicopter bay door, smoking a cigarette, watching the gray-blue water churn below. Colin sat across from me, sharpening his knife on an oil stone, the blade singing against the stone. Master Chief Reeves walked over from the bridge, his face wearing the same expression he always had before a shitty mission. Lips pressed tight, frown lines deep enough to hold a cigarette. We've got a job. He slapped a satellite photo onto my knee. Russian freezer trawler, the Vasily. Was supposed to dock 16 days ago. Went missing. This morning, coastal radar picked up its signal at the mouth of the Bering Strait. Drifting, dead in the water. Crew, Collins put his knife away. 9 on the manifest. Reeves paused. Last radio transmission was 12 days ago. The duty officer at the Russian Coast Guard said the recording had no voices. Just someone breathing in the cabin. Slow, heavy, then the sound of someone hitting metal. Rhythmic. He played the recording for us. First came a crackling static. Then whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Breath slow as tidal waves. Next clang, clang, clang. Like someone hammering the bulkhead with a steel wrench every 2 or 3 seconds. No distress call, no shouts, just breathing, just hammering for a full 90 seconds before the signal cut out. The sonar operator on the mothership told me later that night. During his watch, he heard something in the Bering Sea's deep layers responding to those hammering sounds. He said it didn't sound like any living thing. The acoustic signature was too precise. By the time the Hermes hovered directly above the fishing vessel, the sun was already sinking. I leaned out the chopper door and looked down. The Vasily floated on the slate-gray water. No lights, no movement. Its red anti-rust paint had peeled off in thick patches, exposing steel plates the color of dried blood. We fast-roped onto the deck. My boots hit, not with the sharp clang of metal, but a wet thud. Asterisk squelch. Asterisk I looked down. The deck was coated in something slimy, yellowish-brown, like moss. It gave underfoot, clinging to my soles when I lifted them. The worst part was the temperature. The Bering Sea deck should have been freezing. But even through my boots, I could feel it warm like a feverish forehead. Reeves crouched, scraping the yellow-brown gunk with his knife. The moment the blade pressed in, the stuff oozed clear fluid. It smelled like brine and raw meat. He muttered one word, asterisk interstitial. Asterisk then shut up. We split into 2 teams. The mothership's watch officer crackled over the radio. Thermal showed heat signatures clustered in the engine room and crew quarters pressed against the bulkheads. The chief took 1 man to engineering. Me, Collins, and Reeves headed for the living quarters. The second we pushed open the hatch, heat slapped us in the face. Damp, metallic, reeking of rust and that dentist office stench. Burnt protein like a drill grinding teeth. Reeves' thermal screen whited out, useless. I swept my flashlight. The corridor walls were studded with bulges. At first, I thought they were pipes wrapped in insulation. Then the beam caught one properly. It was a person. The light shifted and my blood turned to ice. A living man, half his body fused into the steel wall. 1 arm, 1 shoulder, half a face exposed. The other side was seamless, skin and metal merged. The border a mess of scar tissue, old and new, swollen with growths. A rusted metal shard jutted from his ribs, its edge glistening with fresh blood. Still wet, still asterisk reflecting. Asterisk his chest moved. Slow, steady. With every breath, the wall around him rippled. Goose flesh spreading from his elbow all the way to the ceiling. Then his eyes moved. The pupils rolled, fixing on my flashlight. His irises contracted. The whites were webbed with burst vessels, red threads strangling his gaze. He was asterisk alive. Asterisk Reeves pulled medical shears from his belt, stepping forward. That's when I spotted the gauge on the bulkhead. Behind its glass face, a needle twitched, creeping from yellow into red. Every jump made the wall asterisk spasm. Asterisk beside it, more shapes pushed outward. Human silhouettes. Asterisk 9 of them. Asterisk above us. The vent exhaled. Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk heavy. Slow. Then asterisk clang. 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 Asterisk hammering on metal. Somewhere on our deck. The sergeant's comms exploded with a metallic shriek, like something screaming inside a steel box. The mothership's signal fragmented, the watch officer shouting, drowned out by the noise. The thermal readings asterisk spiked. Asterisk Collins took a step back. Just one. His rifle stock bumped a rusted fuel line. The pipe groaned, and the whole ship asterisk screamed. Asterisk, a shriek tore from the walls, steel on steel, nails on a chalkboard pitched so low it vibrated my eardrums outward. The thermal display shattered, glass shards hitting Reeves in the face. The sailor, embedded halfway into the wall, gurgled in his throat. His jaw unhinged at an impossible angle, the corners of his mouth splitting open to reveal gums and exposed alveolar bone. His eyes rolled back until only the whites remained, veins bulging like live wires beneath the scara. He strained against the wall, the skin around his collarbone stretching translucent. I could see the dark purple muscle fibers beneath snapping one by one. Then the wall swallowed him back. The bulkhead convulsed around him, steel plating ballooning outward to encase his body. What remained of his face stretched grotesquely, nose flattened, mouth gaping, eyeballs bulging to their limits before being sucked inward. The metal sealed over him, leaving only a distorted human silhouette pressed into the surface. Reeves dropped his medical shears. He drew his sidearm. That's when the deck began to change. The steel beneath my boots, already tacky, started to heave. Through the rusted seams, the floor was vomiting up white, calcified masses, human molars, their chewing surfaces exposed, erupting in a grotesque carpet from my toes to the end of the corridor. My flashlight caught the wet gleam of them, layer upon layer, crowding tighter. Reeves stepped first. Standard issue Kevlar soles met the teeth with a hard click, then a crunch like stepping on shells. He grunted, knee buckling, and I saw it. A white spike punching up through his boots' leather, glistening red. Those teeth had bitten through his sole, into his foot. Collins reacted slower. He was still backpedaling when his heel slipped. He went down sideways, throwing out a hand to catch himself, palm first onto the teeth. His scream came sharp. Fingertips first, then his whole hand sank into the maw. Knuckles popped as teeth locked in, 6, 7 points piercing between his fingers. When he yanked back, the skin stayed behind, neatly flayed, exposing the pale sheen of extensor tendons. Now he was on his side. The teeth went for his fatigues. Kevlar stops knives? Not this. They clamped on a fabric, sucking it between their cusps, fibers snapping one by one. From shoulder to ankle, hundreds of teeth bit down at once. Reeves, still kneeling, fired 3 rounds into the deck. 9mm impacts shattered a patch of teeth, spraying thick, dark marrow across his barrel. Beneath the gaping hole, the deck was flesh, crimson, twitching. New teeth sprouted faster now, rows of them punching straight through muscle fibers. I grabbet Collins, best drag honda. Lifted. He rose maybe 8 inches before the teeth yanked him back down. His gear was fused to the deck, the molars hooked into him like barbed fishing lines, tearing through meat. Another pull, his scream, the wet rip of skin and muscle peeling away. Asterisk pull. Asterisk Reeves roared. He reloaded, firing controlled bursts, shattering every new tooth that surfaced around Collins. Each shot splattered marrow. The deck pooled warm, dark fluid. I braced against the corridor wall, hauling with everything I had. One final heave. Collins' shirt split from collar to waist. His back was raw. No epidermis left, just glistening dermis, flecked with white fat globules. Blood beaded where capillaries had torn. We fell back to the corridor's bend. Reeves limped, 3 punctures in his leg, each step leaving a bloody print. Collins lay prone, back muscles twitching, his glove clenched between teeth to stifle screams. I crouched to inspect the damage. His erectors spiny were intact, but the fascia had been stripped away, muscle fibers exposed, gaping with every labored breath. Near his scapula, the bites went deep enough to glimpse bone, gray-blue beneath the periosteum. The air reeked. Fresh blood, marrow, the ship's own stench of rust and raw meat. For 10 seconds, the hallway was silent. Then the corridor we'd just retreated through. The new teeth sprouting from its deck plates began snapping shut in unison. Click, click, click. Upper and lower rows meeting like hundreds of jaws chewing as one. The sound marching in perfect rhythm from the far and straight toward our boots. A wet swallow echoed through the ventilation ducts. A massive atom's apple bulged beneath the sheet metal, bobbing with a sickening glunk. The ship's lights flickered, not randomly, pulsing to the steady, unsettling tempo of a heartbeat. On, off, on, off. With every flash, the human-shaped bulges in the corridor walls pushed outward a little farther. An arm here, a skull there, fingers clawing against the metal from within. The carrier's radio still crackled, but the operator's voice was drowned out now, smothered under thick, wet breathing. Asterisk who, asterisk 9 distinct exhales, seeping through 9 different sections of wall, overlapping into one suffocating chorus. Reeves leveled his rifle at the nearest bulge. Collins drew his M4 beside me. My hand found the knife on my belt. The teeth stopped clicking. The corridor plunged into silence. Then every flashlight cut out at once. In that split second of darkness, I heard movement at both ends of the hall, soft, dense, like bare feet slapping against wet meat. When the lights returned, the deck teeth were gone. Only pockmarks remained, oozing mucus, each crater lined with fresh steel that pulsed with veins. Then something new began pushing through, thicker, whiter, spreading from deck to walls. Reeves looked down. A milk-white molar clung to his boot, its roots trailing a shred of unsevered tendon. We thought sealing the hatch would stop the teeth. But in the silence, the hull groaned. A single, muffled boom from below. Something far larger than teeth was down there, hammering against the ship's belly. And we were trapped inside it. Want more? Visit my homepage for the full story. Follow me